Welcome to Das Geek. Today I have a headphone amplifier for you to review and maybe drool over. I've been looking for a good amplifier for a while. If you frequent any audiophile forums, you will see that a lot of them request having an amplifier to help get the full potential out of those headphones. And you know how much I love a good pair of headphones. I've fallen in love with the FiiO Focals. I have the ATX, Audio-Technica and 40Xs that I absolutely adore. And so having one of these was something that's been on my list for a while. I've actually had a cheaper version. This is not an expensive version, but I had an even cheaper portable version that I had with me for a while that I used for some Sennheiser headphones. But I know I needed to get back into the market and find another one. Now, before I start, I know there are more expensive units than this. I know there are better units than this. I know, just like headphones, it is definitely up to somebody's personal point of view, their perspective, their knowledge in this area as to what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. This is a very highly rated, the E11 FiiO is very highly rated low to mid-range amplifier. It's completely portable that you can take with you and get that boost you need out of your headphones. Are there better ones? Certainly. Are there newer versions of this? Yes. But I was able to pick this up for about 35 bucks on eBay used. They run anywhere retail between $60 and $80. They're still selling them. This is a pretty great product, and it fit the token for what I wanted to spend on this, because I'm not an audiophile. I'm not as good as some of you are out there on the audio, but I certainly do love a good pair of headphones. I think it's something everybody should invest money into, because the experience of being like a teenager, closing your eyes and listening to music for hours on end is an experience you can only really recreate by having a good, solid pair of headphones you've spent some money on. So before we get into the product and its features, I want to talk about why this is necessary. Impedance. And really what that is the power that's required to drive them. And that's me taking something and simplifying it. All you audiophiles out there, please feel free to add to this discussion in the comments, because I know that you guys have a ton of information on this, and I would love to hear your feedback and get all of the good stuff that you've learned and help fill my brain with some information. But what I know about these is that everything is based upon impedance, or the power it takes to drive your headphones. So when you look at headphones in the higher end, you'll always see ratings talking about the impedance of the device. So for instance, the FiiO Focals I have that I love so much, they have an impedance of 16 ohms. Well, what's that mean? Well, that means essentially anything that's 25 ohms or less, you can really power that with any of the standard devices that you use. So when you're looking for headphones, you don't want to have an amplifier or whatnot. As long as you're going generally 25 impedance or less, then you are not going to have a problem running those from your phone or any other device, and you're going to get the potential out of those headphones for the most part. When you get over 25, that's when you really start needing an amplifier to get the full potential. So if you bought a pair of Audio-Technicas or high-end Sennheisers or Beyerdynamics or some of those other headphones, you're going to notice that a lot of their impedances are quite high. Their own requirements are quite high, and that can go anywhere from 25 to 300 or higher for those headphones. So your device, your portable device, your phone, your MP3 player, even the jack in the back of your computer may not be able to push those ohms. Generally, your portable devices can push about the 25. So that's where, if you're going to be taking these headphones with you and you still want that great sound out of them, you're going to want to invest in an amplifier. So for instance, this amp here, it can run all the way up to 300 ohms. So it could push those Beyerdynamics or anything that required that. Now, the headphones that I tested here were the ATM40Xs, the Razer Pros, and the FiiO Focals. I happen to have the Razer Pros for a different review, so that's why I used them, and they actually have a 32 ohm impedance requirement, so that's over the 25, so you would want an amp technically to push those. The ATM40Xs have a 30 ohm, and as I mentioned, the FiiO Focals have a 16 ohms, therefore they're capable of really running on a device without the need of an amplifier. And that's where I want to get into my test of this device here. When I was testing with the Sphere Focals, certainly it could make my music louder. So if you're in a noisy environment, you ride the bus, you on an airplane, something like that, you may want still to use this even though it's not required. It may have changed some sounds here and there with regards to the bass, but it wasn't enough that I felt the need to carry around this amplifier everywhere I went. So from that aspect, I really don't think you need it for the Sphere Focals to push them. Can you get a little better sound? Yes. If you were an audiophile, could you hear the difference in a large scale way? Maybe, but certainly with my ears, I was not. Now, when I plugged in the ATH M40Xs, the Audio-Technica M40s, that's where the difference really started to show up. So the ATH M40s, I put the amplifier on them, and suddenly I could get the sound that I'm getting out of the amp that I have on my computer, because I have a separate amp for there, for all my microphone setup and everything else for reviews. But when I was plugging those directly into my phone, the sound was kind of muffled. I was missing some of the mids. I was certainly missing the lows. They would run, you could hear the music, but not up to the full potential. Then you plug this amplifier in, and boom, the sound came, and it was beautiful and brilliant. And that's where these really, really shine to get the full potential out of a full range headset like that. With the Razer Pros, my experience was the Razer Pros sound really isn't that great, regardless of where you're listening to them. They have a high requirement for their ohms yet, and that's probably because they're mostly geared towards bass. If you like Beats headphones, you're gonna love the Razer Pros. The lows are low as you can go. It's two 12 inches and subs in the back of a trunk level music that you kind of get, but everything else is pretty muffled. You get the boom, boom, boom. The mids and the highs really are just not good. And no matter using an amplifier or not, it didn't really change that. It just didn't sound good. It could make it a little better, but the Razer Pros are just not a good pair of headphones for this type of application, and they're more of a gaming headset. And there's some arguments that could be made there, but we'll do a review on the Razer Pros otherwise. So if you have a good quality pair of headphones, you know the ohm requirements will be written on every box. It'll show. This amplifier certainly did its job. So let's talk about this amp for a little bit here. So what you have is this mini little device. It has a USB connector for power, so that's how you charge it, because it has a battery inside, which we'll show in a second. You've got a switch here, which has a really nice resistance to it, so you can do real minimalistic movements to get to the right volume that you want there. And then the on and off switch is also built in, so you can hear it click, and that lets you know if it's on or off. You have LED indicator there telling you that it's on, and you also have a battery indicator telling you when you're low on batteries. So as simple as this is, all you have to do is plug, take your 3.5 millimeter jack out, and then you have your headphones in. So you're going to have two of those wires going in and out. So it can be a little cumbersome with the multiple wires that you're going to have. So you're going to plug your headphones into this device, and then you're going to have an out going into this device as well, 3.5, and you're going to have two cords you're going to be jangling into your pocket if you're mobile with it, but not a big deal. And you certainly can get some flat cords like I have, 3.5 millimeter flats, and they're a lot less cumbersome and likely to twist around each other than your standard cord. Outside of that, we have some switches here. So we have a gain switch and an EQ 0, 1, and 2. So your EQ is actually your bass control. So if you have it on 0, it's not going to increase your bass at all. As you move it up here, you're going to notice that it's going to get a lot more punchy. And that's a beautiful thing when you have headphones like M40Xs that tend to be really good on the mids and highs, and the lows could use some work, especially if you're in a real bassy situation. then you can increase that here with no problem. Also, of course, you can increase the volume far past what your device could normally run them at for any noisy situations. And then this last setting here is your gain, and you can set that to high and low. So for the gain, if you have headphones with a high impedance and low sensitivity, use the high setting. If you have headphones with a low impedance, you can try one of the other settings. The best thing to do is to really play with this, listen to the music that you're wanting to listen to, and adjust accordingly. So if you're listening to orchestra, you may not want all of that bass. If you're listening to dubstep, maybe you want it all in there for the drops or something along those lines. So it's really up to you. And then the last thing I want to show you, because it really, I think, speaks to the quality of this. This is kind of like a plastic, but it's very hard shell plastic with an aluminum looking band that goes across. It's very nice build quality. You could drop this and I have no fear of it breaking at all. But you can push this little button here and that will pop the cover off, and it allows you to replace the battery there. So we have an 800 milliamp 3.7 volt battery that we can take out and replace just like you would on like an Android cell phone, which is very cool. So this device is meant to last a long time. It's meant so that you can replace that battery when it starts getting bad, or you're not getting the full runtime out of it. Speaking of runtime, you're going to get about 10 hours out of it, maybe a little more depending on how new your battery is. Some people claim up to 15, but 10's been about the average for me that I've been able to get. So 10 hours of pure, beautiful music listening joy you will get out of this E11. It's a really good product at a really good price right now. Wanted to give you some information that I knew about these amplifiers and why I hear all the audiophiles talk about them, but I would love to hear from you, especially if you have knowledge in this area or you have any questions. Love to get the community together to help answer them. Until next time.